Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Getting back to work on the Sig 227 in this video. Last video I walked through some of the cleanup and polish work on the slide parts. This video is going to be doing the reassembly of the slide and then the final reassembly of the entire firearm in preparation of getting it to the range and checking it out. So that being said, I'm going to start getting things put together in the right order, and then I will come back and walk you through the reassembly of the slide. First thing I am going to do is grab some super quick clean gun and a couple patches and just wipe down every part real quick just to get a little coating of that on it before I put the slide back together. All right, so everything's been wiped down, all the parts that are going in here, and I did put the spring back on the firing pin. Remember, there's a short or a smaller end and a larger end. Smaller end is what will clip onto the firing pin. So that's reinstalled. All these parts and springs were gone over. And then also the slide, I used a long Q-tip with, you can see how much dirty it is, some super quick clean gun on it. Went down the channel for the firing pin there, as well as this coming down this side where the safety goes for the firing pin, and then also wiped out the extractor bore. So all of that is all cleaned out using the super quick clean gun, and that's going to soak into the metal and just give it kind of a long-term protectant slash lubrication. So next thing to do is get the extractor put in place. So that's going to be the spring, then the push rod, and then the extractor. And this, it goes in basically like this, and you're going to have that tab there. It needs to hook into, it's hard to see with the lighting, down in the slide, there is a bore where that's going to hook into. So you're going to need to put backward pressure on the spring and push rod and and then just be able to pop it into place so it'll hook in place down there. Be careful of spring tension and having that little push rod go flying. So I'm going to go ahead and get this installed, and I'll be back once I am done. And real quick, this is what it's going to look like with the spring installed and then the push rod on top of the spring. So now you just need to grab the extractor, push down on that, and get the extractor popped into place. All right, and there it is reinstalled. This is what it should look like. It looks like it kind of lines up along the side. It sticks out ever so slightly. And if you push towards the back end of the extractor, you'll feel it spring back and forth a little bit. So that is the right or correct assembly of the extractor. Next, we're going to be flipping this around and putting the safety in and then the firing pin. So let me grab those parts. All right, so I have the safety and the spring. So we're going to put the spring in first. Goes into the bore like so. And then you grab the safety, and you've got this end that's kind of cut up and whatnot. It goes with the half moon towards the back, and they'll go over the spring inside of the bore. So just like so, and you should be able to push it down on top of the spring and feel the spring action. Next thing you're going to want to do is grab your firing pin. I'm going to need 2 hands for this. Slide it in the back. The cutouts go towards the top of the slide, so the curved will be facing up towards you in this position, and you will need to push down on that safety as you run the firing pin down, and then it'll catch the safety and hold the safety in place. All right, and if you have it done right, this is what it should look like. The safety or the firing pin will stick out ever so slightly. The safety will pop back up. The firing pin will not want to come out in the back. And if you push on the firing pin with like the end of a Q-tip, it should not come out into the bore. As I'm pushing on it there, you're not seeing it pop through because the safety is doing its job, and the safety should stay in place. So that's the reassembly of the slide, other than putting in the retaining pin, which I'm going to grab a punch, and hammer that back into place. All right, and the roll pin is reinstalled. One thing I am going to add is you are going to need to put some pressure on the firing pin, because if it's left as is, the roll pin's not going to want to go through it. So your 2 possibilities to get the roll pin to go through are to have a punch in the other side to get everything perfectly lined up. That's kind of a pain. What I did is I actually took this punch and had it on the block underneath, and it fits in this groove here, and it was enough where if I pushed down on the top of the slide after starting the roll pin through the side, it would push up on the firing pin enough where just a couple whaps from the side and the roll pin went through without a problem, and then I could put it back on its side and finish the roll pin off once it was all the way through the 2 sides and past the firing pin. So that is how I got that reinstalled, and here we have a completely reassembled slide minus the barrel and recoil spring. All right, barrel's been wiped down inside and out with super quick clean gun, and I'd already cleaned the barrel with actual cleaner before. Same thing with the recoil spring and holder, and then I also went over all the internal areas of the slide and the rails with super quick clean gun. So now I'm gonna go ahead and get the barrel and the recoil spring put back into place. All right, and as you can see, recoil spring and barrel are reinstalled in the slide, and I grabbed the frame because I do want to walk you through a few little safety things. You know, when I did the frame reassembly, I walked through a lot of how that works, and I've already kind of walked through how the safety on the slide works with the firing pin, but let's talk about how the two parts work in tandem with each other. Obviously, you have the hammer, which is going to hit the firing pin there to make the gun go boom. Pretty straightforward. But then you have two safety portions that are part of the fire control mechanism. As I mentioned on the frame videos, you have over here, which is basically your disconnector. What that does is that rides, and there's this little half moon notch on the frame. So anytime that is outside of battery, which that's what this, this area here is in battery. If it's outside of this area, there's going to be downward pressure from the side of the slide on the disconnector, and that is going to push down on it, and therefore it will not grab the sear. When this is able to pop back up, via the spring that's underneath the handle from when I had the frame apart, it will ride in this groove, and when it's in this groove here and able to be popped up, then it will function, it will grab the sear, and it will release the hammer. The other portion is the safety right here, which again, I walked over that in the frame video. That is what is going to depress your firing pin safety right here. As you pull the trigger, it puts upward pressure on the safety lever. That's as the sear is being pulled forward, this pivots upward, pushes on that, and allows the firing pin to go past the firing pin safety. All right, so got the two halves that are going to make the hole. What I need to do is grab gun grease. I'm going to put a little dab on each side of the slide where the rails are going to go into the slide, just to lubricate the rail areas. I did already run a patch with super quick clean gun to clean those out, but I actually used a little bit of grease there. And I'm going to put a tiny little bit on the firing pin safety and a tiny little bit on the barrel lug where it is going to catch the block on the frame down here. So just a little bit of grease, and then I'll be right back. All right, as you can see, got grease in all the spots I talked about. Plus I did put a tiny little dab in that little half moon where the disconnector runs. So now it's going to be pretty much just put the slide on the frame, lock the slide release lever in place, and do a final wipe down, and everything should be good to go. All right, and there it is, one reassembled Sig P227. Now you can go ahead and see if the fruits of your labor were worth it. Pretty solid, smooth pull there, and then right here, nice crisp break. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. I mean, I definitely think it feels like it's a little bit better than it was before, and I mean, every little bit counts. Again, I don't like putting aftermarket third-party triggers or anything in my firearms because you never know what you're going to run into as far as fitment issues and whatnot, and tolerance stacking and things like that. This OEM parts, just a tiny little bit of cleanup on them, not really modified or anything like that in any way, but it's enough to just make it feel a little bit better and make it a little bit better of a shooter. All right, and all wiped down with the rig rag and rig grease. She was looking pretty dry, and just needed a little protection on all the metal. So I'm gonna let this soak in for a little while, and then I'll go ahead and put it in the case. So that's where I'm gonna end this video. Next video, not sure if it's gonna be the range video of this or if it will be me introducing next project. And then maybe a couple weeks before I get this to the range. So I definitely want to do a shoot on this one, see what I think about it. But also because I would definitely like to be able to compare it to the Glock 30 that I've done, that I did previously. So we will see when that comes up. But I do have another project on the horizon. Well, many more, but I already know which one is next. So that being said, if you like what you're seeing, you want to follow along, please hit like, please hit subscribe, please hit the notification bell. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section below. I do review them. I will reply. I do have another YouTube channel devoted to automotive stuff. If that's something that interests you, please check it out. There's a link in the description of this video. I do also have a Rumble channel where I'm posting all my gun content as well. If you're on Rumble, I'd appreciate it if you would follow the link in the description of this video and subscribe to my channel. That being said, Thank you very much for watching, and have a great day.